Understanding your unique value proposition and differentiators of your product or service is one of the most critical topics for new sales reps. If you cannot clearly and concisely explain your unique value proposition and the differentiators of your product or service, you will struggle to close. My name is Brandon. Welcome to the Sales Armory. After 9 years in the sales industry, I'm giving away the tips and tricks that have helped me along the way and can help you develop your career. Today we're talking about understanding your value proposition and the differentiators of your product or service. Some of the core objectives here are going to be understanding what your unique value proposition is, knowing your company's specific value proposition, learning how to communicate your differentiators clearly, and last but not least, being able to connect those differentiators to buyer needs in order to close more business. So first and foremost, what is a value proposition? A value proposition is typically a statement or 2 or 3 sentences worth that is ultimately the core reason a buyer should choose your product or service. A strong value proposition answers the question, how do we solve the customer's problem better than the competition? It combines outcomes, benefits, and business impact. So again, to recap, it's typically either a single or a couple statements. It's the core reason that buyers are going to choose your product and service. It's going to combine outcomes, benefits, and business impact to ultimately answer the question, why should I, as the buyer, select your product or service? So an example would be something to the effect of, we help mid-size retailers reduce inventory costs by 20% through AI-driven forecasting. We're focusing on outcomes, we're focusing on benefits, and ultimately communicating the business impact of combining those. So what makes a great value proposition? There are a couple tenets that make up a great value prop. It's clear, meaning it's simple and it's easy to understand. It's relevant. It's going to speak directly to either the buyer's pain points or their goals. It's unique. It's not something that every competitor can say that they do. And it's provable. It's going to be backed by data, by customer testimonies, or by case studies. All right, so that's your value proposition. Now, let's talk a little bit about differentiators. So what are differentiators? They are the specific things that make you stand out from the competition. It could be product features, service quality, pricing model. Now, pricing model is different than price. When I talk about pricing model, think subscription model versus one-time cost. Customer experience or results and outcomes. Differentiators, though, are different than features. Not every benefit or feature of your product or service is going to be a differentiator, and it's important to know the difference. If all of the competitors use a subscription model, then you using a subscription model for pricing is not going to be a differentiator. That might be a feature, but it's not a differentiator. Now, conversely, if every competitor in the marketplace is on a subscription model, but you have one-time pricing and then a lifetime access to a product, now that might be a differentiator. You see the difference? So how are we going to identify and use the differentiators? Ask yourself, what do we offer that others can't or don't do well? For example, the company that I work for sells pharmaceuticals. We specialize, though, in specialty medication. And what that means is we will oftentimes either carry medications or have medications in stock that our competitors do not have. Tailor your message based on the buyer's priorities and do not list features. Connect each differentiator to a business problem. So going back to my company as an example, here's how you connect your differentiators to a business problem. I'm not going to pepper every prospect with every medication that I think they might use. When I am on the phone with a prospect, I'm doing discovery. I'm asking them about what medications they use and what their current experience is. I'm going to use chemotherapy drugs as an example. I might ask a hospital or a pharmacy, do you guys treat oncology patients? Now, if they say no, if I just peppered that prospect with all the different oncology medications that we carry and that we have in stock and that no one else has in stock, that prospect isn't going to care. They don't even use those meds. But I'm asking the question to drive the conversation based on that buyer's specific needs and their problems. So then if they say yes, The second layer question is something to the effect of, what medications do you normally use? And once they start listing off the medications, now I'm going to know the specialty meds that come up that I know I have in stock that other competitors probably don't. But instead of bogging you guys down with a long oncology drug name, I'm just going to call it drug X. Customer says they use drug X. I know it's oftentimes in short supply, very hard to get a hold of, and I will ask them, where are you currently getting that medication from? How frequently do you use it? Have you had challenges sourcing that medication? And if they tell me, oh my gosh, I've had all these problems, the doctors really want this med, but I can never seem to find it. Now I know that I can talk about what differentiates us because I'm tailoring it to that buyer's specific experience. Again, if they say that they have no problem ever getting that medication, maybe I pick a different one to talk about. On every call, I'll talk about multiple though. That's how you're using the differentiators and the buyer's needs to drive that conversation instead of just peppering them with what you think or what I think would be relevant in that scenario. So let's talk about delivering the value proposition in conversations though. So we talked about how to deliver the differentiators, how you're going to tie differentiators to your buyer's needs, pain points, or goals. This is how you deliver the value proposition, and it can happen at a couple different times. In your intro pitch, if you're making a cold call, the value proposition is why they're going to stay on the phone with you. It could also happen at the beginning of a discovery call. I could give my unique value proposition. We specialize in XYZ, and I want to ask you a couple questions about your process. During objection handling, your unique value proposition is going to answer the question, why should we go with you over a competitor? And finally, when you're closing, your unique value proposition is going to reinforce why that buyer should use your product or service over a competitor's. Common mistakes to avoid with differentiators and your unique value proposition. Speaking in buzzwords, your unique value proposition and differentiators should be communicated in simple layman's terms that anyone can understand. If you solely speak in buzzwords or overcomplicate it, it's going to sound fishy to the buyer. And if they can't understand it, they're not going to be comfortable buying it. So for example, it might sound good to talk about how your AI-driven technology capitalizes on grabbing the low-hanging fruit so business owners don't have to boil the ocean trying to implement this technology. You've used a lot of words to not actually say anything, and that business owner is thinking to them, so what? Talking features, not outcomes. Your product or service may have features and benefits that differentiate you from the competition, but until you can tie those features and benefits to the outcomes that business owner or that buyer is going to get, so what? And last but not least, focusing on what you think is important as opposed to what the buyer cares about. Remember, to effectively communicate features, benefits, and differentiators, you should be doing discovery to understand the buyer's either pain points or goals and tying every feature and benefit to how it's going to help them achieve that outcome. All right, so some key takeaways here to recap what we've been discussing. Know your value proposition cold. You should be able to say it clearly, concisely, and confidently. Focus on outcomes, not just features. Customize your differentiators based on the buyer's pain points or goals. And the better that you can explain why you're different, the less that you'll have to compete on price. When you are answering questions about the outcomes that your product or service is going to deliver for that buyer, if you're able to confidently, clearly, and concisely communicate it, you will be having a conversation that is based on outcomes and value. And once you're there, price almost becomes irrelevant. I assure you that you will be able to close more deals though when you're selling on value as opposed to price. Good luck. If you found this helpful, subscribe to the channel and I'll see you in the Sales Armory.